Hello everyone, my name is Rahul. I'm an ex-Cisco TAC engineer. In this video, we are going to discuss top 10 interview questions asked for Cisco ISE. Uh, so what is Cisco ISE? Cisco ISE is basically a centralized authentication server used to authenticate users, endpoints, and network devices. It uses protocols to authenticate users. Protocols Radius and TACACS. So let's understand what's the difference between Radius and TACACS and why do we use it and where we use these. So Radius is a open standard protocol used to communicate between network devices and Cisco ISE to authenticate endpoints. Radius use UDP protocol, and the ports are 1812 for authentication authorization, and for counting it's 1813. Radius has a legacy ports which are 1645 for authentication and accounting. Sorry, authorization, and for uh, accounting it's 1646. In Radius only password is encrypted, and the, there's the same packet used for authentication and authorization in Radius. It's very important point that you remember that there's the same packet used for authentication and authorization. Radius is basically used for network access authentication, which means we use Radius to authenticate endpoints. Endpoints mean like Windows, Linux machines, and Mac operating systems. Whereas TACACS is a Cisco proprietary protocol used to authenticate network devices like switches, routers, firewalls. TACACS use TCP protocol and port number is 49 for authentication, authorization, and counting as well. All the packets in TACACS are encrypted, and a main point here is it uses a different packet for authentication and authorization, and which gives a more granular control over the device. In case if we want to give read and write only uh, access to one user and give read access to one user, so that's possible with TechX. And also we can do like command authorization, like we can restrict users to run only few commands which we have allowed from TechX, because there's a different authorization packet. So as discussed, it's a basically used for device authentication. Let's come to next question. So this is the most frequent question, like what are Cisco ISE rules and personas. And to understand this, I have attached screenshot here. In this you'll see it's mentioned here that rules. So rule is basically it will be either like Cisco ISE deployment will be either in standalone or multi-node deployment, and role will be either standalone or primary and secondary. Like standalone means there is a single node, and prime in case of multi-node deployment, the nodes will be in primary or secondary roles for administration and monitoring, and there can be 50 policy service node in a deployment. And let's come to personas. So understanding personas is very uh, required. Like you understand, it's very important that you understand like which node is used for which purpose, and while troubleshooting or while working on node you should understand the criticality of that node. So administration is the node on which we do all the configuration for Cisco ISE, and monitoring is the node in which will capture all the logs for authentication and authorization which is happening through Cisco ISE. Policy service is the persona which will be used for enabling services like Radius, TACACS, PX Grid, Posture. So all these services will be enabled on Posture Policy Service node. So it can happen like we have a different node for administration and different node for monitoring and different node for policy service. So for authentication, the node which will be getting used is policy service node. Okay. Uh, so what's the checklist to review before we upgrade? I have attached a screenshot. It mentioned like in Spice also. It's mentioned to review this checklist. I'll just walk through it. So first checklist that we'll have to like check is a configuration and operational data backup. That we should have the configuration backup in case if something went wrong while we are doing the change to upgrade the ICE version, and we need to restore the backup. We need to restore the ICE operating system from the backup, so that should be available. Backup system logs, that all the logs which we have should be available, and export certificates and private keys as well. So the third party certificate which we are using on ICE for like EAP authentication, those should be exported before we upgrade. so that while we like in case of some crash happen, so we can import those certificates, and that require private keys also, so that's very important to export. And review the upgrade guide that from 2.4 we can directly go to 3.0 or not, like to, or from 2.4 we can downgrade it or not, so it's very important that you review it. And uh, before like going for an upgrade, check if all the nodes has updated certificates, and the data for the file system is within threshold. So it's very like before you upgrade we should check these kind of things. And how to upgrade to Spice. So to upgrade to Spice, there's a before we upgrade to Spice, there's a SAN node, which is secondary administration node, on which we can run URT bundle. So URT stands for upgrade readiness tool. It will be a tool that will be used to check all the requirements that we need on Cisco ISE to be able to upgrade. In case if we have an issue, like in case if there is a certificate which got expired, in case if there is some issue with the disk space, so that we can get to know from the upgrade readiness tool. In case if everything is fine, then URT will be successful, and we can move more confidently towards the upgrade of ISE version. We can upgrade ISE from the GUI, like from the web interface or from the CLI as well. It will be done from administration. From administration, you will go to systems, and from upgrade. So there you'll get this window, and here after review the checklist, you'll prompted for upgrade, where you'll download the ISO and start upgrading. How to install patch on ISE, and why do we install patch on ISE? So uh, while we while we have a Cisco ISE version, we might encounter some bugs, or we might encounter some issues with the ISE node. So they will patch will be which will be released by Cisco, so that those bugs or those issues can be resolved with those patches. To upgrade a patch, you can do it from GUI as well from CLI. To GUI, you'll need to navigate from administration system to maintenance, and this is the page which you'll get, and here you can install the patch. Okay, let's further continue with the protocols. So it's very important that you understand protocols like PEAP, MSCHAP, which will be used frequently with for endpoint authentication. So it's a like diagram which you can see, or which you can refer to understand the protocol, like how it will work. And I'll just quickly go through it, and to help you understand like what all we need and which certificate we need. So PEAP MSCHAP v2, it will just need one certificate from the server side, from Cisco ISE side, and that's a EAP authentication certificate, which will be used here for validating the trust with the client. Client here is supplicant. Supplicant is like Windows machine. So let's take an example of supplicant here as Windows machine, and authenticator as WLC, and authentication server as Cisco ISE. So initially there is an ePOL packet which will be sent from supplicant, which is from Windows device to WLC, mentioning I want to establish a communication. And for in response to that, the WLC will ask for the user identity. uh, the end machine will pass on the identity, and further WLC will forward that identity in a Radius packet. So the communication between a supplicant and a WLC will be happening on layer 2, and the communication between uh, WLC and server, which is Squise, will be happening on layer 3. The protocol which will be used between supplicant and authenticator is EAP protocol, and the protocol between WLC and Cisco ISE is Radius protocol. So Cisco ISE will get the packet from WLC in a Radius packet, as mentioned here, and in access challenge, it will first ask like which protocol you want to negotiate with. If you want to negotiate with PEAP MSCHAP, or you want to negotiate with EAP-TLS. So endpoint is the one who will decide which protocol he wants to get negotiated. And for PEAP MSCHAP, there is a EAP authentication certificate which will be on Spice, will be sent to supplicant, and supplicant will first verify that certificate, that this is the trusted server with which I can try to authenticate. And after establishing a tunnel, then the password will be exchanged. So PEAP MSCHAP is basically a username password based authentication protocol, which will be used with a PEAP tunnel for establishing a secure communication. And there is one more protocol which is more secure, is certificate based authentication, in which ICE will also present its certificate to Windows machine, and Windows machine will also present a user certificate or a machine certificate to ICE server, that I am the valid user who has got this server from who has got this certificate from the domain, uh, from the client domain, and I want to get authenticated. So this is the flow which is mentioned here. You can just go through the flow. It will be used for EAP authentication. So this is a basic overview video. In case if you want me to create a more detailed video about PEAP MSCHAP and how we troubleshoot these, you just let me know on the comment section, and I'll create individual videos for protocols. One more frequent question that is asked is how a guest endpoint will get authenticated. So major of the redirection based authentication like guest, BYOD, and others like posture also use redirection. So those will all be using a redirect URL and a redirect ACL. If you understand guest properly, then it will be easy for you to understand BYOD or like posture, because those also use redirection based URLs, and there's also like they also use these packets to go through while authenticating. So guest authentication is basically a guest user is a user who's unknown to ICE, because it's possible that the user is first coming to ICE for the very first time, and that's why he'll try to connect to an SSID, which will be guest SSID hosted for only those users that those are not part of the corporate. Initial packet will be mapped, so the protocol which will be used between guest endpoint and the WLC or switch will be mapped, and the protocol which will be used between network device and Cisco ISE is Radius. Just like PEAP protocol, which like PEAP MSCHAP protocol, which I explained earlier. Initial packet will be for containing a MAC address, which will go to WLC. WLC will determine that this is the packet, and WLC will further form a radius packet and send that packet to Cisco ISE. Cisco ISE doesn't know the MAC address initially, so it will authenticate that device as per the configuration of Cisco ISE, and in response to that, it will send a redirect URL and a ACL, like airspace ACL, which will be configured on WLC to only allow access to ICE on port 8443, uh, and to DNS server and to DHCP server, so that so that the endpoint can get an IP. After the endpoint will get the redirect URL sent from ICE, it will the endpoint will load that page, and based on the kind of portal we are using, like self-registered portal or sponsor portal, or like a hotspot portal. So based on that configuration, endpoint will try to register its endpoint, and there is a HTTP packet which will be initiated from the guest endpoint to Cisco ISE. It's very important that you understand the concept of change of authorization here, and the port should be open in case if there is a firewall between network device and Cisco ISE. So the port for network device, like for WLC, Cisco WLC, the port is 1700. And change of authorization, basically like once the device is already authenticated, but we want to change the authorization that the device has, so we'll initiate a packet to uh, elevate the user privileges, and here you'll forward an ACL which will provide full access to end user. So this completes your guest flow, that initially the user will have some privileges after he successfully registered to the guest portal. Then a change of authorization packet will be initiated from ICE, and that will elevate the user privileges as we have configured internally. The last step I would like to uh, discuss is this that how we troubleshoot in case if we get into an authentication issue. So what tools we can use within Cisco that will help us to understand the issue. So first I'll refer you to go through the live logs, and you can check the live logs on operational live logs. And then there will be reports will like for Radius you will go to Radius live logs, for TACACS you will go to TACACS live logs, and there is a detailed report that you'll need to check, and that will help you understand that in case like what's the issue with due to which the endpoint is getting failed. Further, live logs which will be available here on operation live logs, like those will be only available for 24 hours. So in case if you want to check for a user who has authenticated like yesterday or a day before yesterday, then you will need to go to this part, that operations reports, and then further reports endpoint and user Radius authentication. So there you can change the time from yesterday to 7 day or to 30 day. Also we have like in Cisco ISE, there are furthermore tools which you can use like TCP dump, endpoint debugs. uh, so to check TCP dumps, you'll need to go to operation diagnostic tools and TCP dump. Make sure that you select the PSN node which is getting used for authentication there. And in case if you want to specify like use it for particular host name, then you can use a filter IP host and the IP of that network device. We can also enable debugs of on ISPSN nodes, which we can go from which we can check from the CLI using the commands related to that issue. And you can Google it like Cisco ISE debugs and troubleshooting. So you'll get you'll get to redirect to a web page. I'll mention those all those links in the description. In that for that you'll need to go to administration systems and logging, and enable the logging particular to that issue on the PSN on which you are troubleshooting. So this will this whole will help you understand the issue that you are encountering with Cisco ISE. I hope this video helps you to understand more about Cisco ISE. In case if there is any topic which you want me to discuss further, you can just let me know in the comment section. Thank you.